are honored to have with us today Don Miller, who is the retired president of Penske Racing with 97 victories under his belt in that role. He's also the first recipient of the NASCAR Humanitarian Award and is the chairman of Stocks for Tots, which had a very successful year this year. And his role that we want to focus on today is that he is also chairman of the board of the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you coming.
Well, I'm very glad to be here.
And supposedly you're retired, but it doesn't really sound like
well,
you're retired.
actually, I really don't know. You know, since I've retired, I can't figure out how I ever got any time to do the things I do now when I had a job, you know. So pretty active.
So how did you get involved with the Auto Racing Hall of Fame?
Well, back in the early 90s, when Rusty Wallace and I had started our team with Roger Penske, we were, you know, trying to become a better part of the community, I guess you'd say. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Bob Ebert at the time, who was a big developer here in the Mooresville area. And he said, you know, the one thing that's really amazing, he said, all these race teams are coming here, and I don't think there's a museum anywhere near here, you know, to show the public what you guys do. So, you know, we started thinking about it, and I said, you know what, maybe we ought to start one. So Bob and I got together over in Lakeside Park, and we purchased the an old truck tailpipe factory.
Okay.
I mean, it was really a mess, you know. And we cleaned it all up and redid the whole thing internally and externally, and started the museum with some donations, you know, from him and myself. We put it together, and we started off to be a regular business, something that, you know, developed some profits, and we thought it would take a long time to get going, you know, and as it turned out, it just sort of just started cartwheeling, and, you know, the viewership, you know, the people that actually came in, they increased and increased, and Bob said one day, he said, you know, Don, he said, we need to turn this into a foundation and do something good with the profits instead of just trying to, you know, pay the place off and put money in your pocket, you know. And I said, okay, let's try and do that. So we went to the state of North Carolina, and we got the charter to be the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum, and then we created a foundation, and a nonprofit foundation whose profits would go to support the abused children of the Carolinas, much like Stocks for Tots does. And we did that, developed it, and the thing just kept growing and growing and growing, and even despite the situation that we have now with our economy, it keeps going along, and museums are closing all over the country. You know, it's just it's one of the first things to go, unfortunately, when, you know, when people are strapped for cash. But this just keeps on going. We're just making it, you know.
So tell us what's inside the museum. If someone comes to the museum, how do you go through the museum? What will they see?
Okay, the museum maintains about 45 vintage racing vehicles. Okay. And the neat thing about it is, even though this is stock car country, the museum is for all types of motorsport that competed in the state of North Carolina. So there's drag racing cars and road racing cars and midgets and sprint cars, and there's something for everybody, actually. And then, of course, our whole sport of stock car racing really evolved from, you know, the moonshiners back in the day, and we have, you know, some moonshine cars there, real ones.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, and a miniature still and a bunch of other things, so people can see how it all got started. And we change the displays all the time so that it's fresh when people come through. Right. And we exchange cars with other museums around the country so that you know, they can have a little taste of what we have, and we can have a little taste of what they have. And then once a year, we have the induction ceremony, which each year we take one specific individual who's been voted in by the public now. It used to be by a board, but now it's by the public. And that person has had to compete in the state of North Carolina in some motorsports event, and then he's eligible. He has to be 5 years, at least retired from the sport for 5 years. And each year we bring one person into the Hall of Fame, and not only do they become a member of the Hall of Fame, but then they get their piece of the Walk of Fame, which is downtown.
Right, downtown
University.
Walk.
So that's been an explosive thing too. It just
really
there's hundreds of thousands of people that get to see that every year. So it's been very, very successful.
So how many people at this point are actually in the Hall of Fame?
14.
Okay.
This last October, when we had the induction ceremony, it was A.J. Foyt, which was really popular. That was a sellout induction ceremony. He's definitely a character,
Yeah.
There's only one.
Yeah, that's
Now, do you do any other events at the museum, or?
We have some other events that take place there as a kind of a tradition. A lot of the newsy shows from various parts of the sport. Speed does things there, and Fox does things there. They do special shows there. But we also rent it out occasionally for people to use as a meeting place, or for a special celebration. And we move some of the cars out, and they bring tables in, and it's really a nice setting.
It sounds like another great thing to do with company coming into town, and
exactly.
There's nothing else like it.
And I think that over the years, the museum has really become a destination address all on its own. It's not one of those things that's spontaneous where you see the sign on the highway and then drive in. This is
people are looking for it.
This is really something that they absolutely come to see. And the funny thing about it is that occasionally I'll go back and I'll just look through the register. And the amazing part about it is it's not just people from the United States. It's Great Britain, Sweden, Poland. We had some people from Russia here the other day, and there was like 7 of them came and visited us. And I asked them, how do you hear? Well, those evidently during the season, a lot of the races are taped and then played back. Like in Great Britain, for instance. Well, in Britain, from what this fellow was telling us the other day, the races are played late in the evening, so they have these stock car parties late at night. They're like 7 hours ahead of us. So when they're doing it, they're starting their little party at midnight. So it really takes a real fan to do this. And then they were telling us that in Japan, people see it on tape, and they see people on this thing get referred to the museum. Then they look it up on the internet, and they find out the address. And
well, we're very fortunate to have it right here in our backyard, right in Morrisville. And
yeah, absolutely. And we have a coupon on elkansavings.com for buy one get one free admission. So
that's great.
You guys are going to be the ones that debut that little little tidbit.
So definitely check it out. We actually have it in the top picks, and it's a great museum to visit, and it's right here.
Yeah. So
downtown Mooresville.
Yeah.
Great
Thank
city,
you
USA.
so much for coming to talk about it.
Thanks
for everything that you've done too for the community. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
We're very honored to have you on the show.
Thank you.